starting lesson 8. The first thing they ask you in the homework this week is they ask you to show these circle diagrams. I'm going to start with the bottom one. So in this circle, you see that this circle is divided into 4 pieces, and the blue piece is the shaded piece. So this would be 1/4. Well, if you look at that, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. So the way that you would write that as a multiplication problem is it would be 4 times 1/4. And that's what they're asking you to do in the My Math Lab. Now in the top one, when I initially looked at this one, I saw those as halves of a circle, but that's not what the My Math Lab wants you to view it as. They have this circle here. Let's use a different color. They have this circle here divided into 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what you'll see about this first piece is that 2 pieces are shaded, so that's 2 out of 4. So 2 pieces are shaded in this one, and this one, and this one. So the way they want you to write it is they have 4 times 2 pieces out of 4 are shaded. Now, that's what you get on the left side of the equals. But on the right side, if you look at all of your pieces of 4, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they're showing you that there are 8 pieces of 4 shaded. Now, of course, most of us are upper level math, and so we know that 8/4 reduces to 2, but when you're showing these to elementary students, they do want you to keep it in the 4ths part with the diagram where you can show how the 8/4 come about. Okay, so that's what they ask you to do, the first part of the homework. Okay, so then they ask you to find the reciprocal. Now, what the reciprocal actually means is it's the flip of a number. For example, let's start with easy ones. I don't know why I started with that hard one. Let's say I ask you to find the reciprocal of 1/5. Okay, so the reciprocal of 1/5 means you flip it over. So the reciprocal of 1/5 would be 5/1, or 5. Now let's say that I ask you to find the reciprocal of the whole number, let's say 17. The reciprocal of 17, this is a whole number, so it's understood to be over 1 all the time. 17 is the same thing as 17/1. So if I ask you to find the reciprocal of this, that means to flip it over. So instead of 17/1, we would have 1/17. Now let's go back to my hard problem. You'll notice this is a mixed number, and we learned about that in our last lesson. So to change it from a mixed number to an improper fraction, we're going to multiply here and add here. So 7 times 3 times 7 would be 21. 21 plus 1 would be 22/3. Okay, so that's what the fraction actually is. But if I get ready to find the reciprocal, there we go, I flip it over, so it would be 3/22. Okay, and that's how that one would look. The next thing you have is multiplying fractions, and to me, those are much easier than adding and subtracting. Now, I give you 2 examples here. One's going to reduce and one doesn't. Now, your rule for multiplication says you multiply across the top, that's how you get the AC, and you multiply across the bottom, and that's how you get the BD. So if we take this first one here and I multiply those out, I get 3 times 1. And if I multiply this one out, I get 4 times 7. And that's my full answer. It doesn't simplify anymore because 3 and 28 do not contain any common factors, any common terms, and so you can leave it as 3/28. Now let's look at our next one. I'm going to multiply across the top, and I'm going to multiply across the bottom, and I get 3/24. Well, I know that 24, that does have a factor of 3 inside it, so I can reduce this one. So I'm going to reduce the top by dividing by 3, and I'm going to reduce the bottom by dividing by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. So this answer reduces to 1/8. Now, I want to go back over that problem one more time. You have two options. You are going to reduce and you're going to multiply, but it doesn't matter which one you do first. In my example over here, I multiplied first to get the 3/24 and then I reduced it. But if you look over here on this side, there's your division bar. You can reduce anything along that division bar. So 3 doesn't go into 4, but 3 and 6 do reduce. 3 goes into 3 one time, and 3 goes into 6 two times. So I divided by 3 and divided by 3. What I did at the top, I did to the bottom. So then you could say 1 times 1 would give me a 1, and 4 times 2 would give me an 8. You get 1/8 either way. It's just a matter of, do you want to multiply first and then reduce, or reduce first and then multiply? Okay, so I give you a couple of extra ones of these. You'll notice here we also talked about the signs. Okay, so the signs are a big deal here. Remember from our last chapter that if we multiply and we have two negatives, I'm going to get a positive result. I don't know what my answer is, but I know it's positive. And looking over here, if I multiply this through, I get a negative result. A negative times a positive is a negative. Okay, so I'm going to work these two different ways. If I look at this first one, keep in mind I've already taken care of the signs. If I multiply this part out, I get 10. And if I multiply this part out, I get 24. Now 10 and 24 both contain a factor of 2. So I can divide by 2 here and get 5. And I can divide by 2 here and get 12. And that would be my answer, positive 5/12. Now, let's say that you wanted to work this one the other way. Now, we've already taken care of the signs, so I'm going to leave off the signs. Okay, across this division bar, the 5 doesn't simplify and the 3 doesn't simplify, but the 2 and the 8 do. 2 goes into 2 one time, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. So on the top, that leaves me with 5 times 1, and on the bottom, that leaves me with 4 times 3. It's just a matter of if you reduce first or if you reduce second. Okay, so let's go to this one on the far side. Remember, I already took care of my signs. A negative times a positive gives me a negative result. I can multiply across the top and get 30, and I can multiply across the bottom and get 105. Now from my from my divisibility rules back from before the midterm, I know that both of these are divisible by 5. So I can reduce the top one, I'm going to keep my negative. I can reduce the top one by 5, and I get 6. And I can reduce the bottom one by 5, and I get 21. And I knew that 105 went to 5 by using this that we just did. Now, if I keep looking at that, I realize that it's going to reduce one more time as well, because 6 and 21 share a common factor 2. So I can divide this one by 3, and I can divide this one by 3. And that's going to give me a 2/7. Now that one was a little tougher. But remember what I just did. I didn't keep my negative. So remember, it's a negative answer. Don't forget that it's negative. Go ahead and write the negative in the blank, in fact. So if I have a negative 3/5 and a 10/21, I personally prefer to reduce first. Here's my division bar. Now I know this answer is going to be negative, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. 3 and 21 share a common factor of 3. 3 goes into 3 one time, and 3 goes into 21 7 times. 5 and 10 share a common factor of 5. So 5 goes into 5 one time, and 5 goes into 10 2 times. So now what I have left on the top is 1 times 2, and what I have left on the bottom is 1 times 7, and that is my answer. So watch your signs. Okay, your last one of these is one of the mixed number ones. So what we have to do first is change it to an improper fraction. So remember what I'll do here is I'll times here and add here. So that's 7 times 3 is 21, plus 1 will be 22/7. And over here on this one, we'll times and add. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 1 would be 21/4. Okay, so that's how that one would look once we fix it. Now, remember how I was talking to you about whether to multiply first or reduce first? If you reduce this one first, it's going to save you a lot of time because the numbers are so large. So remember that you can reduce any term in the top with any term in the bottom across the pink bar. So for example, I know that 7 goes into 21. So 7 goes into 7 one time, and 7 goes into 21 3 times. Now for my other ones, the 4 and the 22, I know those are both divisible by 2. So 2 goes into this one 2 times, and 2 goes into this one 11 times. So if I multiply across the top, I get 11 times 3, which is 33, and I get 1 times 2, which is 2. Now, remember this is going to be multiple choice, and so if it's multiple choice, they're going to give it to you in a certain form. And the one that I saw like this gives it to you in the mixed number form. So then after we get this answer, that means we're going to change it back to a mixed number. So remember the way we do that is we'll say 2 goes into 33. That's how we start our long division. And 2 goes into 13 6 times with 1 left over. So this answer is going to be the whole number 16 with 1 left over. And that's how that one would look. Okay, let's get one more concept out of the way, and then we'll move to a new video. Our next rule is the division rule. And dividing by fractions is just like multiplying, except for it has one extra step. So if you take your rule, A over B divided by C over D, it's called keep and change and flip. So I keep the first fraction, I change it to multiply, and you'll see that I went from C over D to D over C. I flipped it. So we call that KFC. We do call it KFC, but it goes in this order. Keep and change and flip. I'm going to get the letters right in a second. Try that one more time. Keep and change and flip. Okay, so we keep the first fraction, we change it to multiply, and we flip the second fraction. If we multiply across the top, we get 20, and we multiply across the bottom, we get 7. Now sometimes the multiple choice might leave it as 20 over 7. You'll just have to look at the problem and see. But sometimes it's going to make you write it as a mixed number. So to do that, this is how it would look. So we would have the whole number 2 with 6 left over, and we put that over the 7. And that's how that one would divide. Okay, so we have a couple more of these. You'll notice in this second one, you had a negative divided by a positive. So this is going to have a negative result. So be careful to watch your signs. Okay, in the first one, we're going to keep, change, flip. Okay, if I multiply across the top, I get 24. If I multiply across the bottom, I get 4. 24 divided by 4 would give me the whole number 6. If you put 6 over 1, that would be correct as well. Okay, looking at the second one, I know my overall answer is going to be negative. So I like to go ahead and put that in the blank, come over there, write myself a note if it's multiple choice. I know I'm picking the negative answer. But as far as working it, I have my blue negative sign. I'm going to keep and change and flip. Now, you're welcome to multiply across the top and get 6, and multiply across the bottom and get 10, and then reduce. But you can also do it this way. Remember that I can reduce anything in the top with anything in the bottom if they're opposite sides. So a 2 and a 2 reduce, those go away. 1 in the top, 1 in the bottom. And so this would leave me with a negative answer, remember, 3/5. Okay, looking at your last one, you have the whole number 3. So that's 3/1. The whole number 3 is 3/1. So I'm going to keep and change and flip. Keep and change and flip. So when I multiply across the top, I get 9. And when I multiply across the bottom, I get 4. To change that into a mixed number, 4 goes into 9 2 times with 1 left over. So this would be 2 1/4. And there's one more of these. So this is 6 times 4 is 24, plus 1 is 25/6. We'll do one step at a time, so I'll come back and flip later. Looking at the second one, 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7/3. Now that's how I start. The next thing I'm going to do is keep and change and flip. Keep, change, flip. Now the numbers are a little bigger, so if the numbers are bigger, I think it's easier to reduce first, but you don't have to. You could easily say this was 75 divided by 42, and then you could reduce. 25 doesn't go with any of these numbers, but 3 and 6 do. 3 goes into 3 one time, and 3 goes into 6 2 times. So across the top, I would have a 25, and across the bottom, I'd have a 14. Okay, writing that as a mixed number, 14 goes into 25 one time with 11 left over. So this would be the whole number 1 with 11/14 left over.